Well, this seems like the thing to do to record yourself prior to your Part 107 test. So for the last week or more, probably longer than that, I've been living with this book, trying to make it a part of my day-to-day lifestyle, and so I don't know how much more I can cram into this skull. So it's it's D-Day. So sectional charts, tough. I feel a little more comfortable with TAFs and METARs. I'm just trying to tell myself, read the question through, try not to get tripped up, eliminate a possible answer so that maybe you only have two answers to choose from, and try to approach it having the knowledge rather than just having sort of memorized questions from past tests or sample tests. So, I'm not a good test taker, and so I'll give it a shot. So here goes nothing. Okay, well, the test is over. I actually recorded something in the car directly after it ended, but I felt like, the whole purpose of, everybody sort of doing a summary of their Part 107 test is to maybe add some, specifics that might kind of help someone else. So, I thought I would redo it once I got home and started to get over the initial excitement of getting an 87. Yes, I can't tell you how glad I am that this stupid test is over. I feel like it's the only thing that I've been doing most of the summer. And so my journey in taking this test was that I followed the directions of some of the other folks, here on YouTube. One was watching Tony Northrup's video. Tony Northrup's video is great, but I felt like for me that it really didn't have enough details that I needed, because I'm kind of more, creative, artistic, and this is really like, yes or no. There's not a lot of gray area, and so I felt like I needed some other help. So I spent probably 6 weeks or more during my, stationary bike ride in the basement in the morning, and I'd come home and read. I had a bunch of stuff next to where I sit, and I also bought, the Airman's Testing Supplement, because I knew that they were going to give it to me, but I really had very little familiarity with it. And it's kind of a good thing that I did, because I feel like the recommendation from others, including the person whose course I bought, which I'll get to in a minute, always said, go to the legend in the book because you can find some answers there. And I probably went to the legend 6 or 7 times. But I felt after watching all of these people's videos and, Mr. Mig's Classroom, which had good stuff, Drone Pilot Academy had great stuff, but I felt like I was sort of all over the place. Like I had some command of things like, 3 statute miles and 400 AGL and all that, but I was kind of missing some of the more detailed stuff. And so I watched somebody's video who recommended make the appointment to take the test. That way it will force you to bear down and do it. And that's what I did. And so today was the day. So I would say a couple of weeks ago, even less than that, I was doing the King's School's sample tests, and I wasn't scoring very well. And so I kept making notes on paper and mental notes to go look at these things that I didn't know anything about, like airport signage and things like that. And so I felt like I really needed to buy a course, because I didn't have an organized system that was working for me. And I watched a video by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, by John Peltier, maybe it's Peltier, who has a photo business, and he has a lot of instruction for a lot of various things, including drones. And he's also an Air Force veteran and pilot, and has a number of FAA certifications. I really liked his style. It was just very, moving you from A to B in understanding. It was very, slow and measured, and I really liked it. So I had a coupon code, and so I bought a course. Now, some people don't. They say you don't have to buy a course, and some people don't have to buy a course, and that's great. I'm glad if you don't. I felt like for me, I was kind of coming down to the wire for today, and I felt like that course made the difference for me. Now, that may not be the case for everybody, but it made the difference for me. And so I recommend it. So what did I see today? Well, I saw on the Part 107 exam a lot of general information. Like they really hammered crew resource management. That was like a big topic. A lot of general knowledge surrounding that. A lot of understanding CTAF. A lot of safety protocols, some of which I hadn't really looked at in depth too much because I figured I know all about safety, that's good. But as I was reading through the questions, I'm like, okay, bookmark that because I'm not really sure. And I managed to, do you have everything you need? Okay. My wife's making cookies for me. They're like celebratory cookies, which is, the best. Questions on alcohol. Lots of questions on sectional charts. So to me, that and lots of questions on airspace. So that made up sort of the bulk of everything. What I did not see a lot of were, there was one TAF question, there was one question on METARs. There was not a lot of airport questions. I spent a lot of time going over John's chapters on, the directions of airports, because what I had, gleaned from YouTube, I just wasn't really sure. I wasn't getting a lot from that, but I really appreciated all of the time that he devoted to that. But there really wasn't today a lot of questions on that. There were a number of questions on regulations. Regulations like how long do you have to re-register your drone, that 3-year mark. And then there were a number of questions that I was kind of puzzled about. I bookmarked them. I didn't feel very confident. And I was saying to my wife, who's making me cookies today, that I was kind of nervous that maybe I was going to fail this because I kept clicking the timer to look at the time, and I was 1 hour and 10 minutes in, and I thought, wow, I still bookmarked like 12 questions. But one thing that John mentioned, and these are the things that I would tell you to keep in mind, read the question, because a couple of times I've changed my answer based on the fact that I didn't read the question in its entirety or very precisely. That's the first thing. 2, that you are trying to eliminate an answer, if you can, that doesn't make any sense. So it makes your choices from 3 go down to 2. I ran into several instances there where that technique really helped try to isolate. I may not have been comfortable with the 2 choices left, but it certainly took one out of the equation. I'm not a good test taker, and so I was nervous, but I used up all of my time, like all 2 hours. In fact, the timer was going down to like 5, 4, 3, 2, and I was just finishing or taking off my last bookmark and choosing an answer and thinking to myself, I don't feel very confident in this. I feel like I'm going to have to pay $175 again to take this stupid test again. But I shouldn't call it a stupid test because I felt like there was a lot of information that could be of benefit and value to me. It's just that, after a couple of weeks of like doing this every single night, I'm just like ready to move on to a drone because I have a drone and I've never even looked at it. I just told myself I wasn't going to watch YouTube videos because I just wanted to learn about getting the Part 107 certification. There was one question, and if you have this book, if you go to Figure 21, the question was about this V-15 route. I'm guessing a V-15 military route. And it asked about the altitude. And for the life of me, the choice was like 700 AGL, 1200 AGL, and 200 AGL. And I'm looking at it now and I still don't know. I don't even know what I picked. I might have picked 700 AGL. I'm not even sure. I mean, it looks to me like it's in Class G airspace, but I figured it was a trick question of some sort. So I feel like in this test, there were always a situation, at least 2, maybe 3, where I don't want to overthink it, but I feel like maybe they're trying to execute some kind of trick question here. And so you have to be mindful of that and be careful of that. So as John suggested, I went to the Legend 6 or 7 times to make sure that I knew that that was Class E airspace, that shaded magenta. And this brings up another question, which I will file in the Peltier forum. The test today referred to shaded magenta Class E airspace as vignetted magenta, which is a term I've never heard before. I mean, I've certainly heard of vignetting as a photographer and videographer, but I never heard it mentioned in in view of airspace before. So that was kind of odd. So you may want to look at that word vignette and see if there's something that you can glean from that. But that's one in particular that I wanted to call your attention to. So yeah, I would say, don't be afraid to go to the Legend. I feel like I got a couple of questions, answers based on going to the Legend and refreshing my memory. Don't be afraid to take the time to read the question. And on the second pass, I know of 2 questions that I changed because I didn't read the question in its entirety. So don't be afraid also to use all of the time. I used all of the time. So I don't know what else there is to say. There you go. I hope that if you don't pay for a course, great. I think that's awesome. And you're able to, score high and, that's great. I would recommend this Peltier course. I felt like even this morning, my test was at 10:30 Eastern. I was up at 4:30, kind of refreshing my memory and rewatching sections, especially of airspace. I feel like Class E airspace is kind of confusing to me. So I found his information really helpful. And so there you go. So good luck on your test and stay safe.